Hi, hello everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. Welcome to an online discussion organized by KineDok, overcoming trauma, which has been inspired. So I'm very thrilled to have this opportunity to talk about this specific film and this important topic. With us, joining me in this discussion are the director, producer, writer duo behind the film Bigger Than Trauma, Vedrana Pribačić and Mirta Puhlovski. So hi. And we are very happy to welcome also Delia Vasile, whose name I'm pronouncing correctly, I hope. More or less, from Romania. She's a psychologist and psychotherapist. So welcome everyone, and thank you for being with us.
Thank you for inviting us.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
So nice. From what I understand, sorry, Mirta. From what I understand, the film was made available for free on KineDok's website. So I'm hoping everybody watching this has already seen the film. They had plenty of opportunity. So today I'd like to begin this discussion with a quite obvious question, maybe after seeing the film, which was the first question that kind of rose to me after seeing the film for the first time. So the film took years and years to make and produce. So I would like you, this can be a question for both Vedrana and Mirta, through the process of making this film, especially on working with and building trust in this small community that you were part of.
Mm-hmm. We wanted to make a film about women, about their perspective in war, and about healing process. That was our main intention, because we both think that after the traumatic events, there is no enough available healing programs. And it's something which is common, in my opinion, personal opinion, after the major traumatic events, which is war in this case. And we were wondering, after you get diagnosed PTSD, post-traumatic stress syndrome, is it possible to find the light after a very dark tunnel? Is it possible to go out of this box called PTSD? And now, after doing this film for 5 years, and spending a really long time with our protagonist, we see that this is possible. And it's really possible with proper programs and proper therapists. And that is really hope. It really gives hopes, not to the victims, but to all of us. And that's and how we build the trust. It was really a long process. We had to approach differently than usually when we film some other protagonists. And we, of course, had the help from therapists, because Mirta knew them before because of some things that she did in her life. And they really respect Mirta. And when she brought a director with her, they kind of felt it's going to be a okay connection. And we had this, our first decision is not to disturb the healing process as a filmmakers in any case. So we didn't bring much equipment. We didn't have any lights, for example. We didn't have sound engineer. I did sound. And we only had 3 of us in the room. Mirta, me, myself, and DOP, the director of photography, Dario Hacek. And for a couple of months, we just came to the group and we just observing, and then when we started to filming, it was very, very slow. And we of course had agreement with the girls that they gonna be the first one to see the film, and they can change something if they want. Luckily, there wasn't any changes, any bigger change. And during months, then years, we became all very close, and it was a really beautiful synergy between all of us in this room. So yeah, it was slowly to building this trust, but at the end, when we, not at the end, in a couple of months or 1 year, when we gained that trust, it was a really, really sincere and beautiful connection. And this is where I'm going to stop if Mirta wants to add something.
I mean, yes, everything Vedrana said, I would maybe just add that in this kind of process, when you are with them, you become a part of the therapy in a way. And since we also helped them, I think that the filming also helped the process a bit. I don't know if it helped, but it definitely affected the process. I think in a positive way. The protagonists were actually also in a way grateful to us that we are there. As the time went on, so after a year and a half of filming these therapies, which were not, we did not need much trust for that, since it was agreed with the leader of the NGO and the therapists, and they said, okay, we said we will not film things you don't want us to film. We will film only group therapy and some individual parts that you are okay with. But so after a year and a half, they were ready to film other things too. And their private lives, and Vedrana was really, really, for this private part, Vedrana was really with them all the time. So it was a really like a synergy of her and them. And but the most important thing is the therapy part in which we were involved as part of the group, as part of the patients also in a way. And it happened because of this. I don't know, it couldn't happen any other way. So it is, everyone asked us about this trust, but the thing is, we did not feel the problem with it. We were thinking, okay, if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. We will have what we will have, but we don't want to force it and impose something to them that's not okay.
Yeah, and we were trying all the time to see this film through their eyes, actually, not through ours, but through their eyes. And they kind of felt it, you know, they kind of felt it. So yeah, and with in one moment, there is a complete synergy, you know, we all felt the same in a way. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say it really shows in the film, and that's why everybody's so, as you said, interested in hearing more about getting to this point of synergy. And from what I understand, obviously, it took a lot of time and patience. So I'll come back to some things you mentioned, details, but for now I would like to ask Delia. So if you can talk us through the psychotherapist side of the story. So this is, as we see, a team of 5 experts, each in their own fields. So it's a mixture of methods, approaches, from NLP to systemic coaching or physical therapy as well. So can you give us a bit of a info on this?
Sure, yes. I think that what we can witness as we watch the documentary is a very sensitive and very realistic journey from what we can definitely understand as major trauma to the end point where we can witness these women becoming unstuck from their past and being able to better attend to their present lives. I would not dwell much on the theoretical point of view, and I would rather engage with the real experience of somebody who is taking such a journey from PTSD and the history of significant trauma to a better present life. And I think that what we can witness in the documentary is a very comprehensive approach to the traumatic experience. We can see that it is approached symbolically and metaphorically, which is a way through which we can bypass resistance and we can access the content of memories and experiences that are otherwise unavailable. I think we can witness the somatic approach. So there is a lot of physical expression of experience. We can also witness the relational approach. So I think it is of great significance that this experience happened in a group that had some degree of ethnic diversity. We had Anna, who was the Serb in the group, and it is clearly depicted in the movie how that was a problem at some point. I think it is very important to highlight how long it takes. The psychological fracture that happens following such extensive traumatic experience is not something that we recover from quickly. To some degree, it is something that the human self doesn't ever fully recover from. But it can be integrated and it can be tolerated in a way that makes future life possible. And I think there was one very significant aspect of what we can witness. In this background, where trauma is not recognized on a social and political level, publicly, we can clearly see that there is very little recognition and it is not actively addressed in any way. So what we can witness is how this group of people have built a micro-universe in which they facilitate recovery for each other, in very clear contrast to the overall political and social environment. We can see how grounding methods are used, which are specifically designed to make the person able to self-regulate emotionally, to tolerate and integrate their traumatic history, while becoming aware that the present time is different from how it used to be. And I think that the present time is different in two very significant ways. One is that, fortunately, war, violence, abuse, rape are no longer present in their lives. And the second very significant way in which the present is different from the past is that they have this new community in which their experience is acknowledged, and they are supported in coming in contact with it and eventually allowing themselves to move on from it.
Okay, thanks. I'll get back to some things, but I think we could now show clip 1, where we'll see a bit of that process and initial stages, I would presume, of building trust between the participants, this micro community.
Izaberi ko će biti reprezentant tvoje duše. Ok, dođi samo i utakni. Ok. I malo se samo makni, a ti nađi svoje mjesto u prostoru, jednostavno kroz doživljaj u tijelu. Ti si reprezentantica Marijine duše. Sad tebe molim da ideš u odnos sa njom na način na koji god želiš. Pogledaj gdje stoji, možeš joj se približiti, možeš se udaljiti. Možeš razgovarati sa njom?
Reci mi.
Ja bih se naslonila na tebe.
Na mene.
Yes, it's from the start of the film. It's one of the initial scenes that gets us as the audience introduced to this community. So can you tell me, I mean, personally, I'm interested in the chronologically speaking, was this something that was shot, do you remember when it was shot in the process? Mirta?
Yes. Yes, it was shot at the very early process. Film is mostly chronological. The way I mean, we started filming 2017. We didn't know if this is going to be a group that will end up in the film. We wanted to film to see if this is possible to film and how it's going to look. And then this was, I think, the second day we came. This was this constellation was made. So we when we saw this, we knew it's gonna be a great film. I mean, at least it's gonna be what we want it to be, in a way to show how this transformation is possible through different methods, and how I think the hardest thing about this film was to show that this inner process is actually being outside, but it also affects the inner. So it is very hard to show. It is almost impossible, I think. The constellations are a good method because of the externalization of the inner parts of the person. But still, this process is very, very subtle. You cannot really see it. And I mean, I don't know much films that deal with this kind of things in a specific way of just being observer of things happening inside, hoping that it will be clear. So this was the biggest our biggest fear. Can you show the inner change through some things, and can you feel it? Because it's generally just something that is very, very intimate and very hidden. And this constellation showed us it is possible. So now we took it as in a way a center of the film, that around it we will make the film, but it is the center.
Yeah,
And the point of this scene, of course, that Maria is disconnected with her soul, you know, and she's trying to find herself, her inner self. It's really, in our opinion, it was really great way to start the film, to point out what's the problem, you know, really, really big problem, to be disconnected from yourself, and show the methods, you know, and show the group. So that's like that was, like Mirta said, it will be built around this scene.
Yeah, I mean this lasts for at least an hour. So, and you know, it's hard to show. For 1 hour, you are in this constellation, and then you have to cut it in 5 minutes. And that is very, very, that was when we made the dramaturgical cut, then we started to edit the details that were important for therapy parts. And these really are so small details, you would never notice them. You just watch this constellation, but you would not notice some details that are like important. And that was very, very, very actually a big challenge for us, that we never encountered to do this that way.
Okay. Of course, my question to Delia would be, well, as we can see in the film, it's all about, as you mentioned, externalization of these inner conflicts. So I'm wondering, how do we, as a psychotherapist, how do you approach trauma or traumatized individuals? How does it affect? What is the first step? I mean, you mentioned about integrating the traumatic event and accepting it. So and also maybe I wanted to add a question about support groups or this group therapy. How often does one get to do group therapy in our region, or in this part of Europe, or in the world in general? So how does it work?
I'll start by saying that this particular scene is a wonderful depiction of this way of working with an externalized part of self, which is actually illustrating what trauma does to the human psyche. It creates a split. It creates fragmentation. The traumatic experience cannot be integrated as part of a functional whole. It is something that stays in a way outside of the self, and at the same time, it is defining everything that the person experiences. So when we can see Maria connecting to this split off part of herself, we witness the way the therapeutic process is hopefully unfolding. It is about making connection possible in a way that can dissolve the numbing, the blockages, the stuckness, the secrecy, everything that surrounds the traumatic experience and makes living life really a nearly impossible task. Because we can witness these women not actually living, but rather surviving. And more specifically, to answer your question, the therapy of trauma can happen in various ways. It can take place in individual therapy. It can take place in group therapy. There are advantages and disadvantages to either approach. There can be a combination of the two. I don't think that there's an ideal pathway. I think that the primary ingredient that simply cannot be absent from the therapy of trauma is building up trust. And building up trust is a key element that's also probably the most difficult to accomplish, because like one of the participants in the movie clearly said at one point, trust died in the war. Trauma makes it unbearably difficult to be able to trust. So whether you establish this connection of trust to one person in individual therapy, or you experience the building of trust with a group, I think it greatly depends on the nature of trauma. I think that in this case, because we are speaking about collective trauma, we are speaking about trauma that had huge impact not only on the individual level, but on the community level as well. It is deeply moving and striking to hear the stories of friends and neighbors suddenly turning against each other viciously. These women continuing to live in communities in which they meet their rapists and aggressors on the street. So in this case, I think it was wonderful and very effective that it happened in a group setting. In other situations, it can be equally effective if trauma work is done in an individual therapy setting.
Yeah, thanks. So, I mean, trauma, as we see in the film, is also very alienating experience in a way that it alienates individuals, and I guess a group therapy, a group setting is a good one to touch upon these things. I want to actually get back to certain thing that you mentioned earlier about public recognition, and this is something I'm going to ask of Vedrana and Mirta. So this film has obviously won many awards, many accolades. It has brewed a big kind of appreciation among certain groups in certain circles. It has also made history, we might say, at Pula Film Festival, Croatia's biggest film festival, where it's one of the few, if not the only, pure documentary to win the grand prize. I mean, congratulations, obviously, on the magnificent thing. So, given this recognition that you got from the film industry, how do you see your reception? What has it been like outside of these awards? So what do you feel like you've accomplished with the film? Are you happy with it? Because I know a lot of the things that they mentioned, even at the end of the film, is that this program is no longer funded, which is sad to hear. So how do you feel about the reception of the film?
Well, should I start, Mirta? Well, reception of the film was really amazing by the audience, by the juries all over the world, by the festivals, you know. But I mean, the program didn't get recognized from our establishment, and that's still the fact. So no one picked it up. you know, but at this moment, therapists are doing initiative to organize trauma center in Zagreb, which will be funded by some European Union project money and by some private money. Because this program really gives results. And why? Because it's integrative program. For example, I'm not an expert. This is my knowledge from making this film and from, you know, talking around the world about this program. So as I can notice, many programs are not dealing with all parts of self. And we have like 4 parts of ourselves. We have physical, mental, spiritual, and emotional part. Usually, physical part is very forgotten in all therapies. In our film, you see like Feldenkrais method and osteopathy method, which works on the body. Why? Because trauma also stays in the body, and it's, you know, and this kind of program is very expensive. It's lasts for 2 years with 5 therapists. It's really, these ladies were really lucky to have this opportunity to go to this program, you know. And I don't know, I hoped that after the film that, I don't know, some politicians came to us and talked to us, you know, and we approached them, but nobody really did nothing, you know, for these women I mean, this is like 30 years. This trauma is 30 years. They were left alone with this trauma to deal with themselves, you know, which is horror. And when I'm on these panelists around the world, people who are dealing with victims of war or other kind of victims, they're not talking enough about mental health. They are talking about court processes. They are talking about how to make like law and punishment for the rapist. And I mean, this mental health, you know, and importance of healing, it's not like communicated enough. And I'm really surprised with this fact. And I can say, by my experience, last 2 years, this is a fact. And that's something which is really horrible. And so therapists are at the moment starting this center because, of course, the program gives results. We all wanted to continue to help others, but also it's about destigmatizing trauma, because we can easily talk about that we broke our leg, we have cancer, but if we have mental issues, no matter which reason was for it, which is really big reason after you were, molested in war. I mean, it's horrible situations. So therapists, when the women start to come to this program, they realize that they all think they're crazy. They're completely crazy. And you cannot work with a person who thinks like she's crazy, she's like not normal. So when they realized that, they were starting to educate them at the beginning what trauma does, not only to your mind and to your spirit, but also to the body, because they all developed all kind of sickness, physical sickness. And so they like approach them like with knowledge, you know, this is like normal to feel this, to experience this after these traumatic events. And when the girls realized they have normal reaction to horrible events, that was the moment when they can actually start to change, you know, when they realize, yeah, this is normal reaction to everything. And so one part of this center will be education about trauma itself, and education to other therapists who could continue, you know.
Okay, I just have to add, because lately I've been talking to them a lot. What is the main issue is Vedrana told a lot of things that are very important. The main issue is you don't know what mental health is. Most people don't know. I mean, we don't know if we are mentally healthy or not. What is mental health? If you would ask people on the street, I don't know what they would tell you, but it would probably be wrong. So trauma is, yes, very, very under the rug, thing under the rug. Not like the idea, but for the one who has it and for the one who lives with the person who has it. The main thing what this center wants to do at the beginning is to educate what is mental health, what is trauma, just to show that we are not in something that is like crazy, something that is unreachable, but trauma is here now in us, in every, not only like, I mean, there are many aspects of this trauma, but of any other trauma. So this is just one aspect of what the film shows. We didn't touch the transgenerational trauma that happens in every war, in every in every traumatic experience. This trauma is transferred to a family. So many aspects. But what is the main thing is that this any traumatic experience, any mental health problem is kept under the rug. So what is the most important thing is to put it up, to show that this is very, like you would go to a doctor if you had the, you know, some big pain, some like tooth pain, whatever. If you have a broken tooth, you go to a doctor. And if you have some mental problem, you don't go to the doctor. You just like, you keep it there for as long as you can. And that is something that our community, our society doesn't work on. That is the main problem, I think. Because I don't believe in tablets. Like, okay, if there is a big problem, you can drink a pill to, you know, calm yourself down from something. But if it takes for 20 years, what are you doing if you're drinking pills for 20 years? And if you have a tooth pain, you can, you know, drink tablets for 20 years, but, you know, it will be rotten inside. And this is the main thing about this center that wants to be. And I don't see politicians are the problem. You know, I mean, they're always the problem, but not the main problem. The main problem is that people don't understand what is really important in dealing with yourself. So this would be, I think this would be wonderful for our society to have this kind of education. And there, you know, where we can learn something is, I don't know, in Croatian television, you have like 1 hour of something that you, like the psychiatrist come and they talk, you know, they talk and that's it. There's nothing else that you can learn from, you know, in media or wherever. No campaigns, no nothing. I mean, and COVID, to me, COVID was like very, had a big explosion, which it had because it was worldwide. But what's happening inside, most people is much important for years, for decades, and no one ever took it really seriously. No one ever told this could be the dealing with yourself could be a way for humanity to be to live different, to be much more calmer and much more joyful. So to me, this is the point of the process like this that our protagonists went through. We showed it on a really big and severe trauma, because if we would show it on some smaller trauma, it would not be give this effect. But if it can be implemented in such a big trauma and successful, then all other small traumas, other mental issues can be, also in a way not healed, but can be processed, which is important, just to process these things.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to take a break, in a sense, that to show another clip, and I wanted to show a clip which shows this, which I felt was an amazing and one of a kind thing, where these therapists meet and discuss their patients. It's a rather short clip, so we'll see it and get back to the discussion.
U nekim aspektima stvarno u poziciji malog djeteta.
Povlači se,
I
ona se
povlači
stalno
se,
povlači.
i na poslu je tako bilo, to se počelo mijenjati. Sad ona ima druge neke načine i vještine, usvaja u odnosima sa pretpostavljenjima.
Dakle, tu je kod nje zauzimanje za sebe, možda.
Definitivno,
to bi ja
to
isto probala osvijestiti kod nje, da on pomogne. Kako trauma funkcionira, ona se želi iznova vrtiti dok god osoba ne prođe kroz traumu. Znači, trauma se želi dovršiti.
Yes, so I wanted to redirect the discussion to Delia. So the thing about trauma and what they said, reaching the traumatized individuals through this physical dimension. So I wanted to hear about your perception of the public or kind of a healthcare. So obviously our at least Croatian healthcare system is in perpetual crisis mode. And of course, psychology is not really one of the main concerns. It's basically all directed to psychiatry. So how do you view this public perception of mental health? The importance of it?
I was very happy to hear that there is an initiative to create these psychological health centers, let's say. I think that in societies which are still very much survival focused, there would be this deficit of attention directed at the psychological level of experience, which is detrimental to generations and generations to come. You have mentioned earlier the concept of transgenerational trauma and what that does basically to an entire nation. It would be wonderful if these centers would indeed be established, and they would provide psychological education and therapeutic experience, because I do believe that there is validating the suffering, the reality of the traumatic experience is the primary step from which something different can emerge. The lack of validation is re-traumatizing. The experience is denied, it is not acknowledged, which only pushes it deeper and deeper into secrecy. We can witness in the protagonists of the movie that everybody is trying to deal with their traumatic experience in isolation. So I think that public level awareness is one hugely important step. I think that psychological education is another hugely important step. And I do believe that the stakes here are enormously high. This is about the future mental health of generations to come. Because indeed, unless trauma is processed, it will be carried on by generation after generation. And it is one of the reasons why violence is still so prevalent in the world. We are talking about the root of never processed trauma, which is only carried forward, leading to the same dysfunctional behavior that creates further suffering and further horror.
I mean, currently the kind of should we say, the burden of mental health issues seems to be on individuals rather than on the system, because it's probably also the question of access to. Not everybody can afford psychotherapy, of course, unless it's, so this is something that Vedrana also mentioned, Mirta, how expensive this whole process is. It's not a thing that you can do it on your own in a way. Yeah, sorry if anybody wanted to. Okay, it's a. So I wanted to also touch upon this. I have a lot of possible questions. I wanted to also talk about this camera, the camera's presence within this community. So if I read somewhere, I'm not sure where, that the camera was also deemed as a character in the film or in the therapeutic process, and I think it was Anna maybe who called it the eyes of the phoenix.
Mhm.
So this, or something like that. So this is what I wanted to see. How was it difficult managing, like Dario was probably the only male person in the room, and it's obviously a sensitive setting. So how did this function with a male, I mean, a man who's a cameraman, DOP, and like the camera, how was it welcomed?
Mhm. So we actually, at the beginning, when we still were developing actually our project, we had a lady cameraman, Dinka Radonic, and she actually filmed this scene with the camera. And later she had too many other things to do, so Dario went in, and the initial idea was to have a woman DOP, like all ladies in the room, but it wasn't actually necessary. We didn't realize it at the beginning, but when Dario went in, he really went with some beautiful energy and understanding, and he was accepted in a second. Actually, it wasn't a problem in this male-female. It wasn't a problem at all. It was only how you approach and how you, you know, how gentle you are, and Dario was amazing in that way. I think he's amazing. And I would like to tell this ritual with the camera that we went, how we actually brought camera to the group. It wasn't our idea, mine and Mirta's, it was the therapist's idea, actually. So they started to talk to the group, and they said, you know, we agreed that we are going to film this session, and we changed dynamics. This is changing dynamics in the group. So we have now another member of the group. It's camera who is filming you. So Branka, the therapist, she's systematic structural constellation leader. The gray lady, she brought a chair, another chair to the room, and she put the chair in the circle, and she put camera on this chair, like another protagonist, actually. And she asked from the ladies to take camera in the hand and to watch through the camera so they can see what we see through this camera. So this small scene is at the end of the film when Katica is telling that she actually filmed before the war. And so they watching through camera, they having like fun, you know, they tease themselves like you are looking wonderful over the camera, another one saying you're all ugly, you know, you better look alive and stuff like that, you know. And this moment of touching camera and watching through the camera and putting her into the room in this particular way, really connect them, you know, with the camera. And at the end, Branka said, well, now it's time to have the name for this camera. And since this group of women, before we came, they called themselves a group Phoenix because they are raising from ashes, of course. So Maria, they were all suggesting something, and Maria said, no, it should be called Eyes of Phoenix. And that was the moment when camera was in, you know, like completely.
I wanted to add something to what you were saying. I think that it did indeed become a therapeutic tool. The fact that this process was filmed. It is mentioned many times throughout their experience, the burden of shame and stigma. And it is mentioned many times how private all of them have tried to keep their experiences of trauma. So having the camera there, it is like it's a metaphor for the outside world who is allowed to know about their experience. I'm really happy the approach was so gentle and gradual, allowing them to form a degree of trust with the process of being filmed. And I think that it became a therapeutic instrument because everybody was aware that they are having an experience that will eventually become public in some form, which I think was very brave. It must have taken a lot of courage, and also very significant. And I think it became therapeutic in itself, your presence there and the fact that you were filming.
Yeah, it's.
I have to, sorry,
Mirta.
I have to add, yes, that definitely, but also later, when we had our first screening premiere at Zagreb Docs, we invited, she was the only one who could come that day, Maria, to the premiere. And when the film finished, of course, neither did we, neither did she know how the audience will react. It was this first screening. and we got the standing ovations of the full auditorium. And she said before the screening started, I don't know if I will come up to say, I mean, everyone comes out to, you know, present themselves as a film crew. And she said, I don't know, I will see. And when it ended, she came, of course. And she was very happy, of course. And then she said to Vedrana later, the day after, that it was the first night ever after the war that she slept as a baby, which also had this therapeutic effect, a very important one, because that was the, in a way, a confirmation that everyone, the whole society is at her side, that she is accepted no matter what happened, and that it had a big effect. Not only that, but also I know people forget if they don't do therapy for a while, they forget again. They forget that they come into the old patterns of behavior, into the old patterns of trauma. It can happen. Of course, they can get out easily knowing what's happening, but still, this program doesn't have a feedback anymore. Not feedback, doesn't have a follow-up anymore. So when they forget now that this film is a tool for them to remember, to come back into this experience, which is very good, I think, for them, for the whole the structure, for their structure. Yeah.
I mean, it ultimately garnered the audience award at Zagreb Docs, from what I understand. So it was an amazing thing. I wanted to show another clip. So talking about this cathartic moment in the therapy. So it's, I think, nearing the end of the film. So it's going to be next on our agenda.
Baš te volim.
Sretan rođendan ti, sretan rođendan, draga moja. Sretan rođendan ti.
Oprosti, ja nikada
se sjećate vi kad nas ona žena pitala odakle ste vi, koja ste vi to udruga, kaže, kad ste tako veseli, kaže, ste vi neki folklor, kaže, vi toliko se smijete, toliko ste sretni.
dođi im da se učlane svi. Svi bi u tu, moji su na poslu isto rekli, kaže, to se nešto čudno s tobom događa, vidi kako je se lice promijenilo za ta 3 dana, šta oni rade s tobom? Možemo li, kaže mi, rekao, ups, žao mi je, ali to je za posebne.
Kad sam došla u udrugu, bila sam prvi puta, došla sam drugi put i bila sam htjela odustati. I došla je gospođa Marija, Katice, idemo drugu subu pričat. I gospođa Marija je vidjela jednostavno da šuti. I samo što me zamolila, ne moraš mi ništa reći, ali molim te, nemoj prestati doći kod cura na kavu.
Moja ideja je bila da se oni dislociraju. Ali zašto je bilo meni važno dislociranje? Zato kad su žene u kući svojoj, onda su previše orijentirane na sve ono što treba u kući napraviti. Da su one i dolazile na program u Vukovar, one bi morale prije puta skuhati ručak, pa kad dođu navečer bi morale oprati, pospremiti, speglati, tako da smo mi paralelno radili na puno toga što je zapravo bilo posvećivanje sebi.
Čekaj da te nešto pita.
Yeah, this is a moment in the film that I particularly appreciated, and it's something that Vedrana, Vedrana Mirta, you mentioned in some interviews how you wanted to not get a film that wallows in misery, but instead is kind of showing a way out of trauma. And a particular detail was interesting, how you had people saying, for example, oh, I'm not going to see the film right now because I'm not in the mood. It's a hard film, which of course this clip shows. Obviously, it deals with a difficult topic, but it's kind of it makes you feel good in the end. So how do we get people to watch the film? Do you have an answer to that? What do you tell them if they say, it's a hard film, I'll see it some other time?
Well, I can say that is very, very hard. No, people don't want to watch the anything that's hard. Most people, and that is the way, what is the television, what is the movies, it's just fun. It became fun. So doesn't matter, which is very hard for the film to be sold, very hard to be watched. We had a distribution for a year and a half. It was, very well accepted by those who watched it, but the problem is to get them there. If you hear rape and trauma and healing in one sentence, that is something you are not very interested in. Even if you had bad experiences in your life, most people, that is why this center and education would be important, because you don't want to watch it, you don't want to deal with it, because it will remind you, it will reflect on yourself, what you want to keep under the rug. Most people, to my knowledge, act like that. That is very big problem.
Maybe
Okay.
if I can add maybe some marketing genius would, if we are living in this society, which commercial is very important.
Yes, but this is, we cannot lie. This film is about that. There is no way to lie, especially about this film, because marketing is lying to everyone. In general.
I don't know, maybe some billboards.
It will be on television in few days, in 3 days. Yeah, but we were at the Croatian National Television last year, and we were listening what they want for their viewers, because they know who their viewers are, and we have to learn also what they want from them. And this is something that will keep their mind and their themselves like in peace. They will be like, it is all very nice. We are watching very nice things that we are interested in, that we want to watch.
Lifestyle, positivity, not too much asking to the society problems, not too much entering into some controversial stuff. And that was like the meeting that we have with the national television.
Yeah, nothing social, nothing, that would actually make them reflect on their lives. And that is the way it is.
Maybe the title of the film should be censored to just the bigger, and then maybe they will be veće, and you just don't mention trauma at all, and then maybe you get them to watch. Okay, I think we're nearing the end of our lovely discussion. I'm not sure, Delia, do you have any final comments, or any of you, perhaps?
In terms of what you talked about just now, dissociation is a very common defense. And I think we need to respect that in terms of the necessity of people to protect themselves from what might be overwhelming or impossible to integrate. The reason why people want to watch funny, light-hearted, positive, superficial even content is a very universal and human craving for escape and dissociation from what is painful and potentially overwhelming, which I think brings us back to the importance of education. We need to accept that self-reflection and reflection on generally sensitive social themes is a necessity that we cannot hide from. And this is the great contribution of your work on this documentary. I think it makes people more aware of the necessity to give proper significance to the pain of the past. And I'm really happy that you focused on making the hope equally visible. And towards the end of the film, it became loud. The hope was louder than the pain. And we have these cathartic moments where they debrief, they talk about what they did together, and they have fun. And I think that my favorite scene out of these hopeful fragments is when Anna, who is so isolated and withdrawn, so bitter and hopeless in so many other scenes, she's showing off her shiny shoes to the group. And I think that is a great, great illustration of coming back to life, not by denying the past, not by dissociating from it, but by owning it and allowing yourself to find that the present can be safer, calmer, more comfortable, and even shiny and fun at times.
Yeah, I think this is the kind of the perfect end to our discussion. I mean, to be honest, I had 11 clips they chosen, and I wanted to use, of course, them all and show the whole film. But I'm happy with what we've seen, and of course the joy that emanates from the final scene. So I would like to thank you again for first KineDok for having me, and then for having all of us engage in this really important topic. So to anyone who's not seen the film, please do. It's much more, much bigger than what you expect from a film dealing with, we'll say, difficult. I mean, these are difficult topics, but just sensitive topics. Yeah, that's. I'm not sure if we should do any final comments.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us.
Delia, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for involving me, and congratulations, and thank you for your work and your contribution.
Yeah. Thank you.